Before the Apple Watch Series 5 came out, I speculated a lot on whether or not Apple would release a new Apple Watch at all, just because none of the leaks or rumors we were hearing about the Series 5 really sounded like anything that would be that major or very much worthy of another number upgrade. And now, I feel like we're kind of getting a repeat with the Series 6. Every rumored feature I've heard of it sounds like kind of just watchOS update stuff. Nothing that could really be a hardware exclusive other than slightly better battery life than before. So in today's video, yes, we'll be diving into, did the Apple Watch peak too early? Are they running out of things to add? Let's begin. I think there's a very long, complicated, drawn-out way that could maybe hit 10 minutes to answer this question, and it comes down to, yes, the Apple Watch has peaked, but it was not too early. I think the upgrades we got with the Apple Watch were noticeable and appreciated and reasonable for the timeline of the Apple Watch's launch, but the truth is, the Apple Watch has experienced something that the iPhone, I think, is also currently experiencing, just in a much quicker way, because the use cases of the Apple Watch, I think, are a lot smaller than that of the iPhone. Your watch does not have a camera. Your watch does not have a keyboard. Your watch does not display content as well as your iPhone does, which means that the number of things the Apple Watch can be good at doing is simply a lot lower. And yes, ever since the first Apple Watch came out, there was plenty of room for improvement, making the CPU better, making the GPU better, making the display better. All of these things will get better, and let me put the record straight. I do believe there will be an Apple Watch Series 6 this year. I don't think that they're going to skip the upgrade. All I'm saying is that whatever the Series 6 does, it's probably going to be somewhat minor. With current rumors going around right now, sounds like it's going to be the exact same display, exact same exterior, so don't really expect a big design change in the actual hardware department, which is why I'm anticipating that I won't be buying a Series 6 to keep for my own use this year, just because it's a lot of money to spend on very small changes, given last year it was always on display, which I tried it out. I wasn't in love with it. In fact, the always on display kind of annoyed me to a certain extent, and a compass, great, you know, that's what we all wanted from the get-go. So I think Series 6 is going to have an even harder challenge this year, trying to figure out what people want to upgrade their watch for, other than just new finishes, new colors. And to be clear, I still think there's some room for the Apple Watch to grow. I just don't really see how much it can really gain, when the only thing I can think of that Apple really hasn't tackled, aside from improving the design a little bit, shrinking bezels even more than they've already shrunk them with micro LED, which we've been hearing about for years now, and it's still not being implemented, so I'm not holding my breath on micro LED. But smart bands could also add some type of revamped functionality, like if you were able to add more battery life with a different watch band, or check your blood pressure with certain watch bands. That, I think, could revive some new life in the Apple Watch, but not necessarily the watch itself. It would just be kind of revamping the accessories for what is already an iPhone accessory. And I know some of you are thinking they need to make the Apple Watch more independent from the iPhone and make it stand alone and not require an iPhone to set up and use, which, to be honest with you, I don't think it's going to happen. And it's mainly because I think removing the iPhone dependency of the Apple Watch would not result in the product being better, because when you set up a product independently without the help of any other device, you have to type in an email, type in a password, sign into your Wi-Fi, and doing all of that with a tiny display like this would take way longer and be way more complicated than what Apple has already done with the setup and pairing process with the iPhone currently. So I don't think necessarily it's a downside of the Apple Watch, or it's a drawback that it's dependent on the iPhone for a lot of things. If anything, the iPhone is what makes the Apple Watch more usable, more practical, you know? The current setup and pairing process Apple has instated on the Apple Watch has resulted in it becoming the #1 watch in the world, and I don't think if they just started allowing it to be completely disconnected from the iPhone and become its own stationary product, it would suddenly sell better, because most people buying an Apple Watch probably have an iPhone already, and I doubt Apple has any interest in making it compatible with Android, just because they would have to instate an Apple Watch, an activity app, and a health app, and Apple's clearly showcased they're not too keen on making Android versions of that many apps, so there's not really much incentive for Apple to make the Apple Watch Android compatible, because that just means that more people can buy the Apple Watch without buying an iPhone, and Apple would rather you just buy an iPhone and an Apple Watch. And with the watch doing as well as it is, they don't really need to find more market share. It is safe to say, though, that if the Apple Watch ever did become Android compatible, that that would kill off all Android watches pretty much permanently. But essentially, with the functionality of health features, notification management, telling the time, there's very little the Apple Watch can do from here. And that means that for future Apple Watch upgrades, they're going to get more and more incremental and less noticeable, similar to iPhone upgrades year over year, getting more and more similar, harder to tell the difference. So who knows, maybe Apple will start doing a Apple Watch upgrade program so they get you in the habit of upgrading year after year, even if the changes are small. But let's say they add a bunch of stuff you guys want. Like, okay, we want micro LED, we want even thinner bezels than we currently have, curved edges all the way around. Okay, they add that with the Series 7 or the Series 8. Okay, you want better battery life. All right, great. Now the Apple Watch battery life lasts a week or 2 weeks. Great, you got that with the Series 9. So what do they now do with the 10? Do we add some biometrics that you're going to use once a day? Maybe. But the fact of the matter is, I think the biggest Apple Watch upgrades we already had very early, and because the product as a whole can only do so many things well, it did kind of peak much earlier than we're used to seeing Apple devices peak, and kind of run out of things to add year over year, and kind of run out of changes to make. Not to say they won't get better, not to say that there's more things it can do, just none of them are going to feel that major compared to what we already had. In my opinion, the Apple Watch Series 4, that's probably the biggest year over year Apple Watch upgrade we're ever going to see. Between the design change, the new screen sizes, the ECG support, the aesthetically different look, we'll never get a year over year upgrade that substantial until like maybe they start adopting more display technology like micro LED, but even then it won't have as many giant health advancements as the Series 4 did. So I won't go as far as to say as it peaked too early, but it just peaked in a very healthy and mature way. I don't think it would have been better if Apple didn't implement the changes they made to the Apple Watch lineup when they did. Imagine if it was like, well, we could add the ECG to the Series 4, but instead we want to make sure we have more upgrades down the road. So we're not going to add it this year. We'll save it for a different year. I don't think people would have preferred that. That would have just made people feel like the upgrades weren't as substantial. So I think Apple added the changes to the Apple Watch that it needed at the appropriate time, and unlike the iPhone and unlike the iPad or the Mac, it just matured because of its functionality way faster than anything else did, because we're not doing like video editing and audio mixing on our watches. So there's not real need for giant advancements in the CPU and GPU department, and we're not watching a lot of videos on our watches either, or taking a lot of pictures in video. Even if they had a camera, you wouldn't use it that much. Trust me, it would not go well. So get ready for very incremental, very small Apple Watch changes in the future, but understand that that's okay, because the Apple Watch is still, I think, the best watch you can possibly buy today, outside of, collector's watches and personal preference when it comes to design. That's all you, and it's not objective. But when it comes to functionality, practicality, and health monitoring, as many lives as the Apple Watch has saved, it's a solid product, and it doesn't need to have major giant redesigns each year. But of course, a lot of you have opinions that happen to be wrong because they're not mine, so feel free to hit me up over on Twitter, join my Discord, and we can chat more about it there. This is your Apple Sheep here. I'll see you in the next one.